Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Theo Hikmat here. Friends call me Jason Zelda. Just wanted to put a little intro on the front of this video here to give you guys some information. I've spent the last 11 years, 2014 to 2025, exposing the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and the things that they have done. As you guys know, I've never been a Jehovah's Witness, and that gives me a bit of an advantage over those that have been a member in that present members may not be afraid to watch my stuff, knowing that I'm not what they would call an apostate. I'm a researcher that's researched the organization, and I spent 11 years presenting you guys with the information that I've found. I've put together an interactive ebook called The Whistleblower's Lighthouse, an interactive ebook, more than 500 pages, that is filled with documentation and information to help you reach those who are involved in the Jehovah's Witness cult and to get them out. I'm giving you a perspective from somebody who doesn't have the entrappings and the mindset of somebody that's been in the group, but an outsider that's able to clearly look at these issues and deal with them from a different perspective. And I've had the honor of being able to lead people out of this cult over the years and wake them up with information. I've learned that the way to do it, you don't just tell them the facts, you have to show them the evidence. And at first, they might want to resist what they see, but stop and think. How many of you who are now a former Jehovah's Witness began to wake up because you saw something? You looked into something and you saw it with your own eyes. And at first, you didn't want to believe it, but the more you began to look into it, the more you began to say, wow, this actually did happen. It required you to see it, not just be told about it. So in my interactive ebook, I took the time, a year of my life and all my free time for the most part, to put together this more than 500-page interactive ebook. I've made it affordable for anybody. The price is only $3, or any price you want to pay over $3, because the website charges me a fee for every ebook that I sell. So any price you want to pay over $3, you want to pay $3 for it, you want to pay $5 for it, 10, 20, 100, whatever you think it's worth. It's more than 500 pages of an interactive ebook dealing with a whole bunch of topics, answering the arguments that they tend to bring up from a whole bunch of topics, whether it be the cross, whether it be Armageddon, whether it be Watchtower stocks. I cover that in the interactive ebook. The crimes done by Jehovah's Witnesses around the world. I actually have a section dealing with various different crimes that are done on the record, done by Jehovah's Witnesses, from money laundering, kidnapping, murder. The list goes on and on. I cover these things in my interactive ebook. I deal with doctrinal issues. I deal with answering their issue when they claim that their Bible is the most accurately translated, and they try to use this guy who claims he's a scholar to back that up. I go into this guy. Who is this guy? What's his name? What's his background? What's his religion? Can you trust this guy? I put a lot of work into this. You'll find this interactive ebook at jasonzelda.xyz, jasonzelda.xyz. Again, available for any price you want to pay over $3. Now, what I'm going to be doing, because I'm working on a couple of more series, this Hidden from Jehovah's Witness series is taking a back burner because I'm working on some more series. I'm dealing with, in the future, Bible archaeology, things that have been found that you're not being told about by your cable news networks and so forth, but there's a lot of things that have been found in the recent few years that proves that this King James Bible is correct. It talks about people and places and events, and this book is being verified by the archaeological finds that they're finding now. We have the technology to now find some of these ancient cities, lost places, and so forth, and they're starting to find them now. But the problem is the local newscasts and the cable news networks are not bothering to cover these archaeological finds. I think you have a right to know. It'll help build your faith in this King James Bible, because there's a lot of people out there that will go out of their way to try to get you to reject this King James Bible, to try to get you to turn your back on this King James Bible, to get you to attack this King James Bible, the whole 9 yards. My whole goal is to get you to believe the book, and not through myth and fairy tale and getting in your face and getting all angry and everything. No, that's not my style. I want to present to you the facts, back it up with evidence, and let you make up your own mind. That's how I do things. So I'm working on a Bible series, video series, dealing with Bible archaeology. Another thing that I'm working on as well is the Bible and artificial intelligence. You and I never asked for artificial intelligence. It's being pushed on us, and it is a Pandora's box that has now been opened, and now that it's open, there's no putting it back in the box. I've benefited some from artificial intelligence. If you look at my music at jasonzelda.com or jasonzelda.bandcamp, BANDCAMP, jasonzelda.bandcamp.com, I have a whole section dealing with music that I wrote using artificial intelligence. I would write the music, or I would have artificial intelligence put together a whole bunch of different clips, and then I would weave the clips together and make them into a really cool song. So in many cases, if there's a song where there's a female singing, that's me using artificial intelligence to do that. And it's amazing some of the songs that I've been able to make using artificial intelligence. So it's not all bad. But there is a dark side to artificial intelligence that the world needs to be told about. Because whether we like it or not, we're headed down that road. And some of its doors, when you go behind them, it's pretty scary when you see the direction that they're going. And I want to deal with this from a biblical perspective. So those are the two new series that I'm going to be working on: Bible archaeology and the Bible and artificial intelligence. But for right now, I'm doing what I call the reposts. I'm reposting some of my Hidden from Jehovah's Witness series for the new people that are coming to my site and learning about this topic. So I'm hoping it'll be very beneficial to you, and it will help to inform you, get information out there, warn you about the Jehovah's Witness cult and the whole 9 yards. And feel free to leave me comments. One more thing too. A while back, I asked people to send me your questions about the Bible. And after I made that video, I ended up with another health issue that put me down for a while. And I've lost track of the questions. So if there are people out there who've sent me questions in the past about the Bible, please leave a comment. Give me the questions again, and this time I'll write them down, and I'll make special dedicated videos in the future. That's my plan, dealing with answering these questions. And again, I'm not going to sit here and claim I know all there is to know about the King James Bible and all that's in it. And anybody who claims that they do, they're lying. You can't know everything that there is to know. This book is pretty thick. There's a lot of information in here. If you knew everything there was to know about God's word, you wouldn't need faith. And the Bible talks about having faith. You wouldn't need faith if you already knew everything. Okay? So I'll do my best to answer your questions, and go for the hard questions. I like trying to answer the hard questions. And if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to sit here and pretend. I will tell you, I don't know. I'll be honest with you and tell you, I don't know. I don't know. So send me your questions. We're going to get into this one here. This is one of my from a few years ago. It was called Jehovah's Witnesses, the Evil Practices That They Hide. And I'm going to divide it into a couple of parts. For there's some people who are claiming my video is a bit too long. There's some new people here who might not have time to watch a 2-hour video. So I'll break it up into a couple of parts. That way it makes it easier for people to be able to take in the information. And I really hope it'll be very beneficial to you. Thank you to all of you out there, by the way, who have sent me comments, told me you're praying for me, the whole 9 yards. I want you to know, health-wise, I'm doing much better. The cancer, prostate cancer treatment that they gave me called HIFU. If you have friends or family that are diagnosed with prostate cancer, your doctor is most likely going to do all he or she can to try to get you to either get chemotherapy or cryotherapy or have your whole prostate removed. No. Ask your doctor about HIFU, high intensity focus ultrasound. Not everybody's going to qualify for it. Depends on how much calcium is in your prostate. If you got too much calcium in your prostate, it's not going to work yet. They haven't figured out how to get the signal to break through calcium. But if you don't have a lot of calcium in your prostate, they may be able to burn that cancer tumor out of your prostate with no side effects. And I'm proof that it works. I had it done to me in May of 2024. And I'm living proof that it works. I was recently checked. They put a scope, a camera in there. The cancer is gone. No side effects, no radiation, didn't lose my hair and have to go through all the stuff you have to go through with chemotherapy. They didn't have to remove my prostate and stuff like that. They used ultrasound signals, literally killing cancer with sound waves. How about that for high tech? So feel free to ask your doctor about HIFU. If you have any friends or family who are diagnosed with prostate cancer, look into HIFU on YouTube. Lots of videos dealing with it. HIFU, high intensity focus ultrasound, or high intensity focal ultrasound. It worked for me. It may work for you and save your life. You got to catch it early. So I'm going to get to the video. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to keep reposting some of these Hidden from Jehovah's Witness videos, and then be looking in the future for some of these new videos dealing with the Bible and archaeology and the Bible and artificial intelligence. Keep me in your prayers. Those of you who've wanted to send donations and stuff like that, again, I'll have a link down in the description for those who've asked about that, who wanted to help. I really appreciate that. Every little bit helps, believe me. I'm a single guy still trying to make my way out here. So I'll have a description down in the description section if anybody wants to donate anything. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys down the road. The governing body is a group of men who demand absolute loyalty to them. If you are a Jehovah's Witness, a baptized Jehovah's Witness, these men demand absolute loyalty to them. Now, they'll say it's loyalty to Jehovah. But when a person is in the Jehovah's Witness group, they begin to blend those terms together. Jehovah and the organization. Jehovah and the organization. Jehovah, the organization. Jehovah's organization. Jehovah's, and it becomes Jehovah's organization. The one becomes the same. The one becomes the other. They feel the one can't function without the other. They believe that loyalty to God equals loyalty to these guys. They believe that loyalty to these men equal loyalty to God, or as they say, to Jehovah. That's how the group works. The leadership of this group goes by a whole bunch of different names. Here's some of the names that they go by. They're called the Anointed Brothers, the Organization, the Branch, God's Organization, Jehovah's Organization, God's Channel of Communication, the Slave, Jehovah's Channel, Headquarters, the Guardians of the Doctrine. That's a name that they gave themselves at the Australian Royal Commission on Child Sexual Abuse. They call themselves the Guardians of the Doctrine. They're called the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York. They're called the Society. They're called the Faithful and Discreet Slave. All of these titles for these guys. All of these titles. You'll notice that I made the heads of these 3D images rather large, and the reason why is because these men actually see themselves as larger than life while they pretend to be faithful and discreet. This is from their December 15, 1971 Watchtower. We're going to put it on the screen for you. They made a chart of what they call the modern-day theocratic organization of Jehovah's Christian Witnesses. So this is their chart of what they say is God's hierarchy, how he runs things. Now, in Christianity, we have what is commonly called the Trinity. My King James Bible uses the word Godhead. Okay, it uses Godhead. But people are more familiar with the term Trinity. It's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit make up the one God. Just like you have one body, and one body has several parts, you have one God, three beings that make up the one God. Now, the way they have their organization set up, according to this chart that I have that I'm going to put on the screen for you, they have Jehovah God at the top with lines beaming out of it. So they have the Father at the top, because they say Jehovah is the Father only. Underneath him, they have Jesus Christ, where it says head of the Christian congregation. Now, does anybody notice what's missing? The Holy Spirit's been taken out. It's supposed to be Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, right? But the Holy Spirit has been removed in their chart and has been replaced by what it says, the faithful and discreet slave class, whom Jesus has appointed over all his belongings, the governing body. So they have removed the Holy Spirit and placed themselves in his place. If you think that's a fluke, I understand that when Jehovah's Witnesses are baptized, they're baptized in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the, I believe the term is Spirit-directed organization. Remember, organization is one of the names for the governing body. So the Holy Spirit just sort of gets pushed off to the side, and the governing body steps in that place. And that's a very awkward position to try to put yourselves in. But that's who the guys see themselves as. They see themselves as larger than life while they pretend to be, these faithful and discreet, humble men. There at the top. The next word is elders, because if you have a handful of guys and they're claiming 8 million members of their group, then you're going to need some people to enforce your rules. The enforcers are the elders. These elders make sure that everybody conforms to the teachings that are handed down. If you don't conform, you're going to be punished one way or another by these elders. These elders are given secret books, they're given secret manuals, they're taken to secret meetings, they receive secret letters. These letters and books and things, they're told you're not to even tell your wife about it. Now we're going to see whether or not these rules are upheld. I'm going to show you a quick video, happened recently from the time I'm making this video. This gentleman walks up to a couple of Jehovah Witness ladies, and begin to talk to them. They discover that the main lady who's doing the talking is actually an elder's wife. He's going to ask her, are you familiar with the elder's secret book, Shepherd the Flock of God? Now that book has been out for, I'm thinking, over 7 years now. I want you to listen to her answer and listen very closely to what she says. This is an elder's wife. Let's see what she had to say concerning the Shepherd the Flock of God book.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
It is. I mean, are you familiar with the Shepherd the Flock book? No? Well, it's a book that belongs to the elders, and it has policies and stuff in there. So within that book, it talks about the fact that if a accusation is brought toward somebody, that person doing the accusing has to have 2 witnesses, and they point to the scripture that says, every matter must be settled having 2 witnesses, blah blah blah. So the problem that the Australian Royal Commission pointed out to the Watchtower is that because of that policy, a lot of potential child pedophiles go free.
But that's not correct, because
It's not?
No, that is not correct, because when it comes to child abuse cases, that is not applied.
Oh, it doesn't apply
No.
for child
And
abuse
that book
cases?
to my husband is an elder, so I know.
He's an elder, and
Yeah.
you don't know about the Shepherd the
No,
Flock book?
because it doesn't. I don't think that book exists. But
Oh, you
there's
don't think it exists?
No, there's no. They don't have special books for the elders and so on. I know what they have, but there's a lot of people who are against us too. So they write things, apostasy. We know that.
I mean, my dad was an elder, and I used to see his book in his book bag.
Yeah, but
And
it's the
he would
same
tell
as-
me as a kid, don't, that's not for you.
Well, they do have letters and things that are probably for,
Yeah.
it's not for everyone, but they don't have special books. But I know the thing about 2 witnesses when things happen, when people talk and so on. But when it comes to those cases, we have special letters read to us that's reported to the police. We don't even go to the elders for those things. If there's a child abuse, we go straight to the police.
Go straight to the
Yeah.
police. Is that something new?
No.
It's always been that way?
Yeah, it's been that way. But,
Well,
we have had letters probably within the last 20 years being read up.
Yeah.
Because we don't want.
But
those
in the
people-
commission, because the commission in Australia, it was all videotaped and everything. And Jeffrey Jackson, your governing body, testified on there. So it's interesting. I think you should see it, because within that commission, they had a copy of the Shepherd the Flock book. So it's a real book, and they use it in testimony. And Jeffrey Jackson didn't dispute it. He acknowledged that, it's one of their books that contains policy from the Watchtower. And there's also another secret book that you probably don't know about, and it's one for child. What do you call that? When child custody cases. So that's a book that if you get a divorce from your husband, and there's a battle for the kids, the society actually have a booklet that deals with how to take it through the court system. Did you know that?
I don't believe.
It's amazing. Yeah, I know you don't believe it, but it's true.
Well, I will admit, I will ask some questions, but I don't think that's true.
Isn't that interesting? She denies it even exists. The gentleman also talked about this book here, the Jehovah's Witnesses' secret child custody book that I mentioned a couple of videos ago. She claimed this doesn't exist either. You're looking at it. You can see me talking about it in my other video, Hidden from Jehovah's Witnesses, the Watchtower's other secret book. This is an elder's wife who's kept completely in the dark, yet she believes she's informed. One thing that I've learned within this group is that women are very, very mistreated. They are very mistreated within the Jehovah's Witness group. And it bothers me to no end, because you're going to see the extent that it goes to with this video here. I'm going to do my best to just bring all this out in the open, because I think something needs to be done. Something really needs to be done. This here is the Watchtower, June 1st, 1997. Again, I mentioned this in the last couple of videos. I'm going to mention it again, hoping that it'll drive the point home. This is the Watchtower, June 1st, 1997, page 6. It says, their book, Jehovah's Witnesses, Proclaimers of God's Kingdom, correctly notes Jehovah's Witnesses are in no sense a secret society. It is a secret society. They deny that they are. But this whole video series would not have been possible if they were not a secret society, because all of their information would have been made public. But they hide a lot of their information, as you saw that elder's wife completely in the dark, about what's happening in her own religion. Yet she swears she's informed. It says here, true religion in no way practices secretiveness. Worshippers of the true God have been instructed not to hide their identity or to obscure their purposes as Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, we're going to see about that. If true religion doesn't practice secretiveness, then what is the Elder's Handbook? This is the August 23rd, 2010 Elder's Letter. We'll put it on the screen for you. We're going to read the fourth paragraph down. It says, we would like to emphasize the importance of keeping these new books secure and confidential, both before and after they are distributed. The textbooks should not be left on top of desks or in other places where they are easily accessible by family members or other individuals. The information is designed for use by the elders only, and elders only is in bold letters. Other individuals should not have any opportunity to read the information. August 23rd, 2010, to all body of elders letter from the governing body, telling them to keep their secret book, Shepherd the Flock of God, completely secret. Yet, they say true religion doesn't practice secretiveness. October 7th, a few months later, some of the elders had written asking, is it okay to spiral bind the book? Now, I want you to think about this. Remember what I just told you about the governing body. They demand absolute loyalty to them. They demand it. So these elders, when they got their book, they couldn't just go and spiral bind it. No. You got to get permission from the guys up top before you can do something as simple as spiral binding a book. That's how much control these governing body members have over the members. If you don't understand that, you're not going to understand the motivator behind Jehovah's Witnesses. This is a group that functions out of fear. That's how it works. That's how it operates. Nonetheless, the leadership writes back, and I want you to listen very closely. Remember, I told you how women are mistreated within this group. The leadership does not trust the women, and the women don't understand that. Hopefully their eyes will come open with a video like this, because when they see what they've been doing with the women, hopefully their eyes will come open and go, wait a minute, I didn't know that was going on. Let's see what it says here. It says, dear brothers, since the release of the new shepherding textbook, several elders have asked about the possibility of having their textbooks spiral bound. There is no objection if any elder personally spiral binds or laminates his own textbook or does so for others. If he has another baptized brother who is not an elder do the work for him, the elder must watch while the work is being done. Outside companies, unbelievers, and sisters are not permitted to do this work. They labeled the sisters next to unbelievers. Outside companies, unbelievers, or sisters are not permitted to do this work. The material in this book is confidential, and confidentiality must be preserved. A secret book from a religion that says true religion doesn't practice secretiveness. And again, the ladies get slapped down. You see, there's no women in the governing body. It's 2017. No women in the governing body. No women elders. No women overseers. The women don't get positions of power. We're going to see what's going on, guys. We're going to see what's going on. The next word is judicial committee. Before we get to that, there's another video. This is a speech from the leadership, one of the governing body members. If you don't believe what I'm telling you when I tell you that the leadership degrades the women, if I was to ask you, if you're a lady and you're watching this, if I was to ask you, what is your purpose as a woman? What would your answer be? I'm certain that your answers are going to be far different than what you're about to hear. I'm going to play for you what the governing body member of Jehovah's Witnesses said concerning what the purposes of a woman is. Ready? Here's the audio.
It says, upon the creation of Eve, man became a kind. Thus we have mankind. Because woman is a kind of man. You know, there's three reasons why you're here. You know what they are? That is women. Number one is to serve God. And of course that's why we're here too, to serve God. That's foremost. But now the second reason why you are here, women, is to feel the need of me. And the third reason why you're here is to give the man of your choosing. These are the three reasons why you live and why you exist. And women are well equipped for this role. You know, your desire from childhood is usually to marry and please your husband. Think back to the time when you were just a little girl. What did you enjoy playing with the most? What did you want to play the most? I can still remember my sister say, let's play house. Always. It could be raining, it could be doing anything. Let's play house. Now, we may have wanted to go play cowboys and Indians, but the girls invariably want to play house. So it's nothing out of harmony. It's good that you have such desires, even when you're young. You see, every woman has what it takes to please a man. Some fail to use what they have properly, causing much unhappiness and sorrow.
You know, scientists say that the cranial capacity of a woman is 10% smaller than that of a man. So now this shows that she's just not equipped for the role of headship. Her role is one of subjection to the man. Her role is that of submissiveness, and that means that she should recognize that she is a woman and be glad to be a woman. But now what does it mean to love your husband? Now we know that all you sisters present this evening love your husband. Or at least you want to love your husband. But now what does it mean to love your husband? Well, you should cooperate with him. That's what it means. You should cooperate but never compete. You would recognize if you truly love your husband that you're not equipped mentally, emotionally, and physically or somatically for the role of competition.
Is your blood boiling yet? They don't trust the women, but they'll use the women, but they don't trust them. Not even to spiral bind a book. The next word is judicial committee. Now you want to talk about women in a judicial committee. A judicial committee is the Jehovah's Witness court system, but don't confuse it with your normal court. It's not like a normal court. In a normal court, you have your evidence, your opponent has their evidence, they take the evidence, they present it to the judge, and the judge weighs the evidence to see who's telling the truth. That's not how the Jehovah's Witness court system works. If you're pulled into the back room, in the judicial committee, there's usually 3 guys sitting there. Sometimes there's more than 3, but there's usually 3 guys sitting there, and these guys are going to sit there as your judge, jury, and executioner. And usually, if they're pulling you into the back room for a judicial committee, they've already determined that they're going to punish you in one way or another, whether it be a public reprimand or whether it be kicking you out of the group. If you're getting pulled into the back room, they've already decided what they're going to. It doesn't matter how much evidence you bring to prove that you are innocent. It doesn't matter. If they're pulling you in that back room, more than likely, they've already determined, as far as they're concerned, you've broken the rules, or as one elder said, the customs of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and you're going to have to be punished for it in some way, shape, manner, or form. Now, what about the women? Remember, there's no women in the judicial committee. So what happens when a woman is pulled into the back room? I'm going to give you a few stories of women who were pulled into the back room. And it would be one thing for me to sit here and tell you what these elders did to these women. But I think it's more powerful if you heard the women themselves. So ladies, I'm going to give you the floor. And let the world know what these elders did. You see, these things happen behind the closed doors. And when the elders do their dirt, if things don't go the way they want them to go, they'll just kick the woman out of the group. And when someone's kicked out of the group, nobody else is allowed to speak to them anymore. So they can't go to another member of the group and say, hey, you won't believe what happened to me back there. Because that person from the group, the moment they see them coming, if they realize that person's been kicked out of the group, that Jehovah is going to turn around the other way and leave. They're not going to speak to them. I want you to hear firsthand what these people had to say, these ladies, about what happened to them in this so-called judicial committee hearing.
Behaviour. Wendy, too, had to describe her rape in agonising detail to a specially convened meeting of elders, held in her own living room.
So I had 3 very elderly men, whom I'd never met, come into my home, and all 3 of them were making notes like this. And I then had to recount it again to them, and they wanted to know every little detail. I'm not sure if I want to broadcast this, but they were very interested in how far apart my legs were. And I had to demonstrate. So it was excruciating. They asked me that if he was touching me, and did I see his manhood, and all sorts of things. And they said to me, don't be embarrassed. Nothing you can tell us will shock us. Nothing.
And what happened as a result of that?
As a result of that, they then went to Mark and interviewed Mark and his wife. Same procedure. And then they had a meeting, and then they brought us together at the Kingdom Hall of Barry.
And what happened there?
We were interviewed. We were not allowed to speak to each other. I had to go through it again in front of Mark and his wife. And then I had to sit and listen to him giving a completely different account.
This approach to bring together the abuser and the abused to confront one another in a so-called judicial committee held by the elders is totally at odds with current thinking about sexual abuse. Despite its title, this is in essence a church committee of untrained men. Yet it's it's elevated to the status of a court by the Jehovah's Witnesses and can decide whether a crime such as rape or child abuse has taken place and how the perpetrator should be dealt with. Wendy again.
After that judicial committee, I was quite traumatised emotionally, very depressed, very anxious. So me and my ex went to Portugal for a week's respite, and when we came back, that same committee called to see us and said, "It's your word against his, there is nothing we can do." When I challenged them and said there are actually two witnesses because Karen has given you the same experience, albeit slightly different, it's still abuse, I was told quite categorically that the two could not be linked because she was a minor and I was an adult.
So it didn't matter that it was the same pattern of behaviour by the same man?
No. Not to them.
Jehovah's Witnesses have been accused of failing the victims of child sex abuse after a case in Manchester where a man who was convicted of sexual assault was allowed to cross-examine his victims. The Charity Commission, which regulates the religious group, said the questioning was inappropriate and demeaning. One victim described the meeting as worse than the court case. An audio recording of the meeting has been passed to our social affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan.
This is New Moston Kingdom Hall in Manchester, where Jonathan Rose spent years as a senior member. In 2013, he was imprisoned for 9 months after being convicted of the historical sexual abuse of young girls. Jehovah's Witnesses went to expel him, but Rose appealed, which led to an extraordinary gathering. A meeting was called between 8 male elders, a convicted paedophile, and his female victims. Over the course of an evening, the women had to recount what had happened to them, while he, Jonathan Rose, got to interrogate them. Each woman was questioned separately. One secretly recorded her grilling by Jonathan Rose.
What I'm saying to you is this didn't happen. Give me one reason please why I would have done it to you. I had no reason to touch you, we were friends.
At one point, another man in the room asked the woman if she'd egged Rose on, and no one prevented him from discussing graphic details.
What was I supposed to have done to you that night? Please explain to me. Not to be perverted, did I touch you down below? Did I touch your breasts?
One victim said she didn't even know Rose was going to be at the Kingdom Hall. She went in the belief the congregation were going to apologise to her with protected identity.
He kept making out I was lying. He kept saying, why did I make it up? Why would I say something like that? And at no point did I feel like he was going to admit it. So as soon as I knew he wasn't going to admit it, there was no remorse, no sorry. That's when I felt like I'd had enough. I just got to the point where I thought he genuinely believes he hasn't done anything wrong.
Her mother, who supported her, was appalled by what unfolded.
I felt guilty because I should have been protecting her. It shouldn't have been allowed. That meeting should not have been allowed, ever.
Jehovah's Witnesses say this evening that they have robust child protection policies and put appropriate restrictions on anyone found guilty of sexual abuse. Today's report, however, said their actions in Manchester failed the women.
It has to be dealt with in a way that is sensitive to the victims who have gone through this terrible ordeal, but also in a way that the public would expect this to be dealt with. And in this case, they let the victims down.
Though Jonathan Rose was expelled from the Kingdom Hall, the meeting here should clearly not have happened. And the Charity Commission have wider concerns about how Jehovah's Witnesses handle sex abuse allegations and are carrying out a broader inquiry. Michael Buchanan, BBC News.
I was good, I liked it. I practiced at home. We had a piano at home. I loved it. It was truly my passion. He was my piano teacher. A talented man, who was well known in our religion. An elder. A family man, a role model.
What was he doing?
Week after week, at each piano lesson I had with this man, he masturbated in front of me. He also asked me to touch him.
You would get out of your piano lesson, and your dad was there waiting.
I couldn't look him in the eye.
Mélanie was 10 years old. Her weekly nightmare lasted 5 years. In her teens, she quits piano and starts dating a boy, which is very much frowned upon by Jehovah's Witnesses. Mélanie is reported. She's summoned to a judicial committee, the church's internal court. Her punishment? A public rebuke in front of the faithful. Who was behind your punishment?
It was my piano teacher. It was my abuser.
So it was your abuser who was judging you for your behavior with boys.
Yes, exactly. Pathetic. I can still see him, to my left, with his accusing eyes. I can see him, and yes, at that moment I would have liked to yell it out to the room.
What stopped you?
Forget it. What I would have said, my testimony would have been brushed aside, that's for sure.
Benoit is Mélanie's father. He was the one waiting for his daughter's lesson to end, while her piano teacher was allegedly assaulting her in the next room.
I would never have imagined in my worst nightmare that such a thing could have happened. Impossible. It takes some nerve to do that to a child when you know her dad is just on the other side of the door, just in the next room. It takes a lot of nerve. Had I seen it, it would have ended badly.
Mélanie keeps her secret for nearly 20 years, until she meets a second alleged victim, a meeting that convinces both women to come forward. The piano teacher is called before 2 judicial committees. Mélanie arrives at hers with her father and her husband.
We stopped at the side of the road before arriving. And I told my husband, I won't be able to do it. Take me back home. It's impossible. I will die. I thought it would be difficult. But it wasn't difficult. It was catastrophe.
A catastrophe, because Mélanie is forced to tell all, in front of her alleged abuser. It's a core rule among Jehovah's Witnesses, drawn from an interpretation of Bible verse.
If I hadn't agreed to confront him, my testimony would have been worthless, so, of course, I was the only woman there, sitting in my little chair. And I had my abuser very close to me, at the table. He asked me questions. He asked me, "You've got it wrong. It wasn't me that this happened. It's impossible. Your memories are wrong. Why do you want to do this to me?" So that evening I was re-victimized by that man. Right after the committee, I went to the bathroom. And I really didn't feel well, severe headache, dizziness. I even lost consciousness.
When I saw my daughter on the floor, it was like he had hit her. It was he who made her crash to the ground. I went crazy. I lost it. I was escorted from the hall. I was hitting the walls. I can't believe they can't find a way to respect biblical principles and at the same time do it with more love and compassion towards the victims who are traumatized.
After the testimony of the 2 victims, the piano teacher is expelled from the Jehovah's Witnesses. He then appeals the decision. Mélanie has to repeat the process 2 more times before the excommunication is upheld. But it doesn't last long.
Now, there are some of you out there who wonder, if all these things are going on, how come you haven't heard more about it? Well, it's real simple. These are some articles about child sexual abuse cases that have taken place here as early as 2022. Jehovah's Witness leaders know that in child sexual abuse cases, most likely they're going to lose. So they pay the victim millions and settles out of court. There's so much evidence against the Watchtower worldwide about child sexual abuse, child molestation, incest, all kinds of various different things. They know if they go into court, there's so much evidence against them, they don't really stand a chance. So what they'll tend to do is they'll go into court and they'll just choose to settle. Now, I want you to put yourself in this position. You've been sexually abused inside the group. You're suing them. In the courtroom, they say, okay, we want to settle. We don't want this to go through the court because they don't want the stuff to get out in the public. The leadership is very, very interested in their squeaky clean reputation. But that squeaky clean reputation comes at a price. And the price is the safety of the Jehovah's Witness member. Your life on the line. Your health on the line. But they don't care. They're concerned about their reputation, because with their clean, squeaky clean reputation, they're able to rub elbows with these multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar companies. They're able to do things, go places, and be invited to places that they would not be invited to if people really knew what was going on. The reason why you don't hear a lot about it is because when they choose to settle these cases in court, the person who sues them usually ends up getting millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. But they have to sign something called a gag order before they'll get the money. The gag order, you can look it up online. You're not allowed to talk about the case. You got to keep the lip zipped. You're signing a contract saying, I will accept this money in exchange for not talking about what happened. Now, let's just be honest, guys. All of you who have YouTube pages against the cults, what if a representative of the cults came to you and said, we'll give you $1 million to take your website down, but you got to sign this contract that from this day forward, you won't say anything publicly negative about us. $1 million in your bank account, but you can't say anything negative about the group anymore. If you do, you signed a contract saying you wouldn't do it. So if you do end up speaking negatively about them after they've given you the money, now they can turn around and sue you for 3, 4, 5 million and bankrupt you. Now, how many people do you know would take the $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million just to keep their mouth shut? That's why you're not hearing so much about it publicly, guys. Roll the video.
Well, victims of this kind of abuse say it is the worst kind. People of faith preying on people who pray. The group Silent Lambs was in Nashville today showing their support for people who say they've been abused by Jehovah's Witnesses and others. Recently, lawsuits were settled in some cases, but not to the satisfaction of Silent Lambs. Channel 4's Cynthia Williams is live now at Kingdom Hall in West Nashville with the story. Cynthia?
Well, there are about 6 Kingdom Halls in the Nashville area, including the one here in West Nashville that's over my shoulder. And today, Silent Lambs attached this bulletin to the door of each one. At least that attempt was made.
So recently 16 lawsuits were settled. Who called you?
Silent Lambs met with vocal resistance today at a Kingdom Hall in Woodbine.
You haven't been invited on the property.
For 6 years now, the Kentucky-based organization has offered support for people alleging abuse within the Jehovah's Witnesses faith. In March, settlements were reached in more than a dozen molestation cases, agreements that came with gag orders attached.
We find this bittersweet. On one hand, we're glad a few victims were finally getting some financial help, but on the other hand, we're sad and worried because they've been forced to give up their right.
Bill Bowen is a former Jehovah's Witness and founder of Silent Lambs. He was surrounded by abuse victims today from various faiths.
When I was around 8 years old, I was molested by a teenager who was a member of my church at Christian Gospel Temple.
There are thousands of us out there and thousands of children that need our help right now.
My parents nor anyone else ever knew that I was abused by an elder.
According to Silent Lambs, the Jehovah's Witnesses policies encourage abuse by not reporting allegations to police, choosing instead to handle individual cases internally. Today, a stuffed lamb was placed on the doors of area kingdom halls, telling victims they need be silent no more. And victims groups say that they are critical of these gag orders because they tend to keep the identity of the predator secret while re-victimizing the victim. Live in West Nashville, I'm Cynthia Williams, Channel 4 News.
The Jehovah's Witnesses headquarters in Brooklyn was supposed to send a faxed response today, but as of news time, we had not received anything.
That's why you're not hearing about it. They're selling out of court, millions and millions of dollars. Remember, the Jehovah's Witness governing body member comes on JW Network talking about there's more money going out than coming in. Sure is. And there's going to be more money going out too, Watchtower. A lot more. Because there's going to be a lot more people suing. A lot more. Earlier in the video, we talked about how the leadership of the Jehovah's Witnesses do not trust the Jehovah's Witness women. They don't even trust them to spiral bind a book. They're afraid they're going to look at it, read it, and talk about it. They don't trust the women. Here's another case. Here, we have a Jehovah's Witness elder being questioned under oath in a court of law. The questioning is because the government of England, as well as the government of Australia, the government of Canada, and the United States, as well as other countries, have learned that the leadership of the Jehovah's Witnesses keeps a massive database in these countries of the known criminals that are hiding within their group, which includes pedophiles. They keep very detailed records about who these people are. In England, they were told to turn over the database so that the government can know who the criminals are that are hiding within the Jehovah's Witness group. Mainly the child sexual abusers. They wanted to know who these pedophiles are. But when the leadership in New York found out that the government of England wanted the database, they sent out a message to the elders to destroy all the documents. Well, this elder under oath is going to be questioned as to why it is they destroyed the documents. And I want you to listen very closely to what happens here, because this elder is just going to get caught in his words, and he's going to be left sitting there looking real dumb. I want you to listen very closely to what he says also about the elders' wives. Take a listen.
But for the whole congregation, it would have repercussions that would flow through.
And the matter was reported to you because you were in a position of responsibility?
Yes.
Did you take any notes?
No, I didn't.
Can you help us?
I may have done at the time, I'm sorry, but...
you may have done?
I may have, but...
Where are they now?
They would have been destroyed.
Why?
We don't like to have any notes outside of what's kept on file in the congregation.
Why don't you like to have notes of a serious allegation?
There are brief notes kept in the file, but all other notes are destroyed.
Why is that?
I guess it's because we don't want them to fall into the wrong hands of other people to find them and go through them.
What are the wrong hands?
Well, we don't want our wives knowing what our stuff, what sort of things we're dealing with. We don't want other people in the congregation coming across that information.
So you want to keep it secret to the elders, is that what it amounts to?
I don't know about secret, but we want to try and limit the amount of people that have to have a look at that information, yes.
And why is it that you want to limit the people who will have access to the information?
Just to protect them, I guess. We don't...
Protect who?
Protect the person that's involved in it and the rest of the congregation, so that they don't have to know these... no, it's just the protocol that we've had, and so we'll just follow that information.
And would you do the same thing today if someone came and reported to you a serious allegation of sexual assault? Would you destroy any notes?
Yes, that's our practice.
And what about telling other authorities? Are you aware of your obligations if someone tells you of a serious allegation of sexual assault?
If we have any hesitation, we contact the branch for advice on how we should proceed legally and scripturally. We don't we don't report it to the police. I think we encourage them to do that, but we give them the assistance to do that if they need that.
How do you encourage people to report to the police?
My understanding is a little bit unclear because I've never had to do it, so I'm not fully aware on the process, but if it did come to me, I would be just saying, this is a matter that you need to talk to the police about or the legal authorities and pursue it that way.
This concludes this part of the video, but there's more to the video. There's a next part to it. So feel free to check my YouTube page in the video section for the next part of this video. I tried to cut them into parts to make it easier for people to digest. Feel free to check out my interactive ebook, The Whistleblower's Lighthouse, located at jasonzelda.xyz, jasonzelda.xyz. The interactive ebook is available for any price you want to pay over $3. You want to pay $3, you get the more than 500-page interactive ebook. If you want to pay $30, you want to pay $60, $100, whatever you want to pay, whatever you think it's worth, feel free to do that. jasonzelda.xyz, a very valuable resource in helping you reach your friends and family who are trapped in the Jehovah's Witness cult. jasonzelda.xyz, feel free to check it out. And for those who are interested in checking out my music, again, jasonzelda.com or jasonzelda.bandcamp, B-A-N-D-C-A-M-P, bandcamp.com, jasonzelda.bandcamp.com. You'll find some of my music that I put together. I think you guys will really be blown away by some of the music that you're going to hear. So I will see you guys down the road in the next part of this video.
In the darkest hour when you're feeling small, just reach out, I'll be there to catch it all. Even when the world feels so much to bear, you'll find my love always everywhere. I'll stand beside you through the storm and rain. Face it together, share the joy and pain. If friends are broken, we'll rise up again. 'Cause you got friends, you got friends. Even when the night feels endless and the dawn won't break, with every heartbeat, a promise I make. When you're feeling shattered like glass on the ground, I'll piece you back together with love so profound. I'll stand beside you through the storm.